What if you woke up one morning to find that you were the richest person in the world? Now, imagine that despite all your wealth and wisdom, you still ended up losing everything. Sounds unbelievable, right? But that's exactly what happened to the richest man in the Bible, King Solomon. His story isn't just about incredible wealth. It's about power, wisdom, and the devastating consequences of letting it all slip away. Today, we're diving into the life of King Solomon, exploring his rise to unimaginable riches and the surprising downfall that followed. Welcome back to City on a Mountain, where we uncover extraordinary stories from history and scripture that still hold life-changing lessons for us today. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and join us as we unravel the mysteries of the past. So, who was the richest man in the Bible? Let's start with the big question. Who was the richest man in the Bible? That title belongs to none other than King Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel. Solomon's riches were legendary, and even today, his name is synonymous with wealth and wisdom. Now, just how rich was Solomon? To put it in perspective, according to the Bible in 1 Kings 10:14, Solomon received 666 talents of gold every single year. If you convert that into modern terms, we're talking about 25 tons of gold annually. That's billions of dollars in today's money, and that's just the gold. Solomon's fortune didn't stop there. He had vast palaces filled with treasures, fine spices, livestock, and precious stones. He controlled trade routes and collected tributes from neighboring kings. But Solomon's wealth wasn't just measured in material goods. His true riches came from his incredible wisdom, which was said to be a divine gift from God. And it's this combination of wealth and wisdom that makes Solomon's story so fascinating and ultimately tragic. How did Solomon accumulate his wealth? So how did Solomon amass such mind-boggling wealth? It wasn't by luck, and it wasn't solely because he was a king. Solomon was a strategic ruler who knew how to use alliances, trade, and taxation to his advantage. One of the keys to Solomon's wealth was his ability to forge powerful trade deals with neighboring nations. He controlled key trade routes, which meant that merchants passing through his territory had to pay tribute to him. He also formed strategic marriages, marrying the daughters of foreign kings, which secured trade agreements and political alliances. On top of that, Solomon imposed heavy taxes on his own people, which filled the royal treasury. But even as the wealth flowed in, Solomon wasn't just sitting idly on his throne. His kingdom was bustling with activity, from the construction of the magnificent temple in Jerusalem to his grand palace, decorated with the finest materials from across the world. But with all this wealth and power come great responsibility. And here's where Solomon's story takes a turn. Solomon's wisdom, a double-edged sword. Solomon wasn't just known for his wealth. He was famous for his wisdom. When Solomon became king, God appeared to him in a dream and offered him anything he desired. Instead of asking for riches or power, Solomon asked for wisdom to rule his people. God was so pleased with this humble request that he granted Solomon not only wisdom, but also unparalleled wealth and power. This wisdom became legendary. People traveled from distant lands just to hear Solomon speak and seek his counsel. The most famous of these visitors was the Queen of Sheba, who brought gifts of gold, spices, and precious stones to test Solomon with difficult questions. Solomon answered them all, leaving the queen in awe of his intellect. But here's the catch. Being wise doesn't mean you're immune to mistakes. And for all of Solomon's wisdom, he made some decisions that would eventually lead to his downfall. The start of Solomon's downfall. One of the major turning points in Solomon's life came from his marriages. Solomon married hundreds of foreign women, 700 wives, and 300 concubines to be exact. Many of these marriages were politically motivated, forming alliances with powerful nations. But with these foreign wives came foreign gods. Solomon allowed his wives to worship their own gods, and soon he began to build altars for these gods in Jerusalem. He didn't just tolerate it, he actively participated in it. Despite being the wisest man alive, Solomon disobeyed one of God's most direct commands. Do not worship other gods. It's almost hard to believe, right? The same man who built the temple of God, one of the most magnificent structures in ancient history, also built altars to false gods like Ashtoreth and Molech. Solomon's heart, once fully devoted to God, began to turn away. What happened next? Now, you'd think that someone as wise as Solomon would have seen the danger in this. But like many of us, he let small compromises grow into larger ones. His kingdom, once unified and thriving, was now spiritually divided. God wasn't pleased with Solomon's actions. In fact, the Bible tells us that God was angry with Solomon for his disobedience, and as a result, God made a sobering decision. He would tear the kingdom away from Solomon's family. The punishment wouldn't come during Solomon's lifetime, but after his death, the United Kingdom of Israel would be divided. And that's exactly what happened. After Solomon's death, his son Rehoboam became king, and the once great kingdom was split into two, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. Neither of these kingdoms would ever reach the heights of Solomon's reign, and the division weakened them, making them vulnerable to foreign invasions. Lessons from Solomon's life. What can we learn? So, what can we learn from the life of the richest man in the Bible? Solomon's story holds powerful lessons that are still relevant today. Wealth can't protect you from bad decisions. Solomon had more money than anyone could ever dream of, but all the gold in the world couldn't save him from the consequences of his choices. Wisdom is only valuable if you use it. Solomon was wise, but he didn't always follow his own advice. Knowing the right thing to do is one thing. Actually doing it is another. Compromise can be costly. Solomon's decision to allow idol worship in his kingdom didn't happen overnight. It started with small compromises, and before he knew it, his heart had drifted far from God. This serves as a warning to all of us. Small compromises can lead to big consequences. True success comes from staying true to your principles. Solomon started strong, but his downfall came when he strayed from his values. His story reminds us that true success isn't measured by wealth or power, but by integrity and faithfulness to what we believe in. Solomon's legacy, what remains? What happened to Solomon's wealth after his death? Much of it was lost during the division of the kingdom and later conquests. The Temple of Solomon, one of his greatest achievements, was destroyed by the Babylonians centuries later. And while Solomon's wisdom and proverbs have survived through the ages, his empire, once the envy of the world, became a mere shadow of its former glory. Solomon's story is a powerful reminder that material wealth is fleeting. No matter how much we accumulate, it can all be lost if we don't stay grounded in our values. In the end, Solomon's greatest legacy isn't his riches. It's the lessons his life teaches us about the dangers of pride, compromise, and losing sight of what truly matters. And that wraps up today's episode of City on a Mountain. If you found Solomon's story as fascinating as I did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the City on a Mountain community. We have plenty more incredible stories from history and scripture coming your way, and you won't want to miss them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.